Ready when you are, Mr. Vice Chair.
Okay. As Vice Chair of the Commission, I call this meeting of the Michigan Independent Citizens Redistricting Commission to order at 9:05 a.m. This Zoom webinar is live streamed on YouTube on the Michigan Independent Citizens Redistricting Commission YouTube channel. For anyone in the public watching who would prefer to watch via a different platform than they are currently using, please visit our social media at Redistricting Michigan. Redistricting MI. Our live stream today includes closed captioning. Closed captioning, ASL interpretation, and Spanish, Arabic, and Bengali translation services will be provided for effective participation in this meeting. Email us at redistricting@michigan.gov for additional viewing options or details on accessing language translation services for this meeting. People with disabilities needing other specific accommodations should also contact redistricting@michigan.gov. This meeting is being recorded and will be available at www.michigan.gov/MICRC for viewing at a later date. This meeting is also being transcribed, and those closed caption transcripts will be made available and posted on the michigan.gov/MICRC website and written public comment submissions. There is also a public comment portal that may be accessed by visiting michigan.gov/MICRC. This portal can be utilized to post maps and comments, which can be viewed by both the commission and the public. Members of the media who have questions before, during, or after the meeting should direct those questions to Edward Woods III, Executive Director for the Commission, at woodse3@michigan.gov, or you may call at 517-331-6309. For the public watching and the public record, I will turn to Department of State staff to take note of the commissioners present.
Morning, Commissioners. Please say present when I call your name. If you are attending today's meeting remotely, which all are, please also let us know where you are attending from by stating the city, township, or county from which you are attending. I will call on commissioners in alphabetical order, starting with Doug Clark.
Present, I am attending today's meeting from Huntington Beach, California.
Juanita Curry.
Present and attending the meeting from Detroit, Michigan.
Anthony Eade. Brittany Kellum.
Present, good morning, and attending from Detroit, Michigan. Sorry, I couldn't toggle my buttons for a minute.
That's okay. Good morning. Rhonda Lang. Steve Lett.
Present and attending from Lee County, Florida.
Cynthia Orton.
Attending remotely from Battle Creek, Michigan.
MC Rothhorn. Rebecca Satella.
Good morning, present, attending remotely from Wayne County, Michigan.
Janice Follett.
Present, attending remotely from Highland Township, Michigan.
Aaron Wagner.
Present, attending remotely from Eaton County, Michigan.
Richard Weiss.
Present, attending remotely from Saginaw Township, Saginaw, Michigan.
Dustin Witches. 9 commissioners are present and there is a quorum.
Thank you, Ms. Reinhardt. As a reminder to the public watching, you can view the agenda at www.michigan.gov/MICRC. I would now entertain a motion to approve the meeting agenda.
Before we do that, Doug, I would like to make a motion that we consider some acknowledgement of what happened at MSU. And I would propose as a remembrance that anyone who had anything to say do so, and then that we have a moment of silence of about 30 seconds for each of the students who lost their lives and 30 seconds for the wounded students. So that would be a total of a couple of minutes. So that would be my motion.
Do I have a second?
I
Second,
second it.
The motion is presented by Commissioner Lett and second by Commissioner Zatella. So let's start by any commissioners that want to make a statement, and then we'll have a few moments of silence.
I think we need to vote on that motion.
Okay, we will. Thank you. All in favor, please raise your hand and say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed, raise your hand and say nay. The ayes prevail. The motion is adopted, and the motion will move forward. So, any commissioners that would like to make comments?
Yes,
Okay, Juanita.
yes, I just want to say that we're praying for the families of those that have lost their children, and even the city of Lansing. We're praying for all of them. Let's try to keep them in our prayers.
Thank you. Any other commissioners?
We have
Commissioner
one person who was wounded from down in this area that was going to school at MSU. And I'm sure there are others that you all up there have heard. We don't necessarily get the news down here on individuals that aren't from here. So that is one thing that the surviving wounded, it appears, are going to be in a long recovery process, and it will be incumbent upon all of the care providers as well as the public to be supportive of all of these students who are still there, as well as all of the students at MSU and the surrounding areas who will be impacted by what appears to be simply a random, unimaginable shooting. So we need to keep them in our thoughts and prayers.
Thank you, Commissioner Lett. Are there any other comments?
Commissioner Clark, I do have a video for the commission as it relates to this when it's appropriate.
Okay, go ahead and show the video. Executive Director Woods.
Were you able to see it?
Yes.
We were, yes. Thank you very much, Executive
It was
Director
nice.
Woods.
Very
Are there
nice.
any other comments? Commissioner Brittany.
I'm changing my name because of the link. I just wanted to say that it saddens me, as the other commissioners have expressed, that children all over, but particularly in my home state of Detroit, are still dealing with this level of trauma. And if there are students listening, I still want to remind you that you have the right to have joy. You have the right to walk the halls or walk the campus to class. You have the right to still join hands with your fellow classmates and enjoy lunch. Whatever rest looks like this time during this time for you all, I encourage you and celebrate you. And I pray that you have the level of support that's necessary. And for those students that don't necessarily have the benefit of having a local person to call home or to have as a resource, I am hoping that you're able to connect with someone in the way that you choose to continue to grow and heal. So my heart bleeds for you all and for the campus and for the city of Lansing.
Thank you, Commissioner Kellum. Are there any other comments? Well, on behalf of the commission, let me say that we're deeply hurt by these things that happened at Michigan State. And our sympathy goes out to each of the families that have been impacted. So we could have a few moments of silence at this point in time. I'd appreciate it. Thank you.
I'd like to thank everybody for allowing this tribute such as it is, and I hope we never have to do another one. Thank you.
Thank you all. I appreciate it. Without objection, we will begin the public comment pertaining to the agenda topics portion of our meeting. Hearing no objection, we will now proceed with public comment. Today we have two individuals on the agenda. First up will be James Gallant.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Go ahead and proceed.
Okay. James Gallant, Marquette County Suicide Prevention Coalition. These are my opinions. And thank you for the MSU tribute. Yes, sad days in Michigan now. And I hope that we can resolve some of our disagreements between us concerning the rules of procedure here at the Independent Citizens Redistricting Commission by hiring a professional parliamentarian for a written opinion, before you go dormant. And you could approve an RFP today and review some, and get some recommendations, have a public hearing next month maybe to put out and what you would want to be on a report, and including the decision that you made not to recite the Pledge of Allegiance. That came up in Washington, D.C. at a committee meeting the other day, and they were talking about Pledge of Allegiance. It turned into mayhem also. And to have them review that decision you made that day, because I believe you didn't vote that day. And Mr. Woods thought you voted that day, but I believe you didn't vote that day because there was no motion. That my main concern is about having discussion first about a motion, and that's how it works. And then all of a sudden the big mayhem, and then all of a sudden you don't even vote and it goes away. And the other thing is that we have no Secretary of State here today. The Constitution requires that the Secretary be the Secretary of State. Joyce Benson is the Secretary without a vote today at this meeting to call the roll calls. I don't know that was Sarah Reinhardt. She just called the roll call. She just did the job under statute, under the Constitution, is required by the Secretary of State. She should be here making these calls, just like that day about the Pledge of Allegiance, about where the rules are, where we at, we got a motion, whatnot. And, even your nonprofit cheat sheet says, don't load up the agenda with discussion reports, and that just get busy with the actual business. And, I've reached out to the Michigan Association of Parliamentarians, and Julie says hello to you folks. And they put out a notice to the members, and an RFP would be better. If you guys folks just put that out so that you could have a national search. And Mike Brady already instructed the commission that the motion has to come first.
Thank you very much, Mr. Gallant. The next individual that we have is Anthony Scannell. Once you get unmuted, please feel free to address the commission.
Hello, MICRC. Thank you. I have a piece here, just I guess as it would be filed under lessons learned, but that seems to have already passed on your agenda. But still, in my on my agenda for maybe the next commission is that I appreciate, you guys made a website available for the public, districtor.org, to make maps and to share them with you and whatnot. And that was pretty cool. But there was one problem with it, and it was that it wasn't really interoperable with any software that you guys were using to make maps. So I don't know, there's just kind of a barrier between what the public could submit and what you guys could consider. So maybe if there's, I don't know, if you had to put some resources to it, I think it'd be worth it to have a software that the public could use that you guys could share, shape files or whatever it needs to be. That's lessons learned. And then I see on your agenda, you have legislative improvements. And I'm concerned about the amendment that created this in the Michigan Constitution, and the part that says require applicants, you guys are now commissioners, to attest under oath that you affiliate with one of the two political parties with the largest representation in the legislature. And that's interesting because that's not how two major political parties is defined elsewhere in the Michigan Constitution, but that's defined elsewhere as the top two Secretary of State vote getters in the last election. So interesting there. But I would wonder, after 2 years, do you still affiliate with the same party or not affiliate? 2 years, things could change. And then I even question the meaning of affiliate. I mean, what does that even mean? Are you paying a dues paying member, one of these two parties, or you just vote for them, or do you have good feelings? What does affiliate even mean? And
Thank you, Mr. Scannell. Before we move on, do you have a comment, Commissioner Zadella?
Yeah, I just wanted to mention for Mr. Scannell's benefit that while the recommendation to make sure that the software was not compatible, or make sure that software was compatible with the MICRC's software, was not mentioned in the lessons learned report, I did include it as a recommendation for future commissions in my dissenting report. So that point of feedback was, at least on my behalf, accepted from him as a good idea and was incorporated into my dissenting report, so that future commissions will see that as a recommendation if they choose to look at the dissenting report.
Thank you for that clarification, Commissioner Zatella.
Mr. Chair, we need to go back
Yes.
and approve the agenda, please.
Approve the what?
The agenda. We did we added the tribute, but we didn't actually finish completing the process to approve the agenda.
Oh, I'm sorry.
It's okay. Here to help. Thank you, Ms. Reinhardt.
Let me get to that.
I'll make a motion to approve the meeting agenda.
Okay, we have a second?
Second, the motion.
Okay. All in favor, raise your hands and say aye.
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 All opposed, say nay, please. Okay, the ayes prevail. The motion is adopted. Thank you for bringing that to my attention. That concludes our public comment. Please feel free to email public comments to the commission at redistricting@michigan.gov. We appreciate everyone who offers public comment in whatever way you choose, and invite you to keep sharing your thoughts, especially if you'd like to share ways that the MICRC processes and procedures have been good or could be more effective. So now let's move on to unfinished business. Next on our agenda will be the unfinished business item of the fiscal year 23 budget impasse. Without objection, I will ask Commissioner Stephen Lett and MICRC Executive Director Edward Woods III to present this item. Hearing no objections, please proceed, Commissioner Lett and Executive Director Woods.
Go ahead, Edward.
Thank you. Budget impasse, as you know, was voted by the House and the Senate that we received our fiscal year 23 authorization for $3.17 million. That has been signed by the governor into law. The funds were deposited in the Sigma account. And we want to express appreciation to the Whitmer administration, Governor Whitmer, as well as the budget director for their efforts in doing that. The 2023-2024 Michigan legislature, Speaker of the House, Joseph Tate, Senate Majority Leader Winnie Brooks, and then the House Appropriations Chair, Angela Whitwer, and the Senate Appropriations Chair, Sarah Anthony, and legislative leaders for resolving this impasse that we had with the 2021-2022 Michigan legislature. As a result of this impasse being resolved, we need a motion to authorize the MRC executive director to work with legal counsel in resolving the lawsuit against the Michigan legislature.
So moved.
Second.
Do I have a second to the motion? Okay, Commissioner Weiss. All right, we have a motion to remove the lawsuit against the legislature. Is there any discussion or debate on the motion?
I know Rebecca would know exactly what we're doing, but does anybody have any questions about what the procedural step will be?
Why don't you just review that for us quickly, Commissioner Lett?
Sure. Everything has been resolved. We have the money in the bank, and the defendants have requested that we voluntarily dismiss the lawsuit, which we will do. They will, of course, agree, and the judge will sign it, and then it will no longer be pending.
Thank you, Commissioner Lett. Are there any other comments? Hearing none, we need to put a vote forward. All in favor, raise your hand and say aye.
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 All opposed, raise your hand and say nay. The ayes prevail and the motion is adopted.
Thank you. And just as an update, our attorneys are meeting with them on Tuesday to get things in motion.
Okay. And Commissioner Lett, you will be talking to the attorneys to make sure that gets accomplished.
Sure. There probably wouldn't be anything for, I don't anticipate I will be involved in that meeting. There should be no reason for me to be, but if they want me there, I obviously would be there.
Okay, thank you. Next on our agenda of unfinished business items is the fiscal year 23 budget report. Without objection, I will ask MICRC Executive Director to present this item. Hearing no objection, please proceed, Mr. Woods.
Thank you, Commissioner Clark. Just want to show the budget on the screen so everybody has a chance to see it. This is our first quarter budget. It's also updated to include the surcharge that we're charged, which is 26% by Kelly Services. Our invoices for January are coming in, and we have been soliciting that from our vendors, and we'll be able to provide you with the report for January and February. But as of December 31st, our amount is $439,601.93. We did do an estimate for our technology/internal purchases through the state, and this is what supports our cell phones by the state and what supports our computers. That is an estimate. Otherwise, the other numbers, as far as we know, are real costs that we've incurred right now. Just as an update, once again, this is from October 1st, 2022 to December 31st, 2022. And we are using the accrual basis, just so we're clear with regards to that. And want to really give a shout out to our contractor, Insights 3, who has been helping us, as well as our Legislative Services Bureau. If there's any questions, I can take them at this time.
Are there any questions from the commissioners? Okay, thank you very much, Executive Director Woods. Next on our agenda is under unfinished business is the MICRC legislative improvements. Without objection, I will ask MICRC Executive Director to present this item. Hearing no objection, please proceed, Mr. Woods.
All right. I'm going to make sure we're all on the same agenda. I have a revised budget. Do you have that on the agenda?
I'm sorry. I do. Why don't we?
We can come back to that.
Let's come back to that,
Oh,
please.
that's fine. All right. At our last meeting, while it's loading, we discussed some MICRC legislative improvements to give to voters, not politicians, who was responsible for the 2008-02 Proposal 2 initiative that created the Michigan Independent Citizens Redistricting Commission. A lot of people think, or should say some people think, that we created the Constitution. That is incorrect in terms of the amendment. That was done by voters, not politicians. As you know, they gave us feedback for our lessons learned, and they have requested our feedback to share in their lessons learned. At our last meeting, we talked about the following items: a process for voting individual maps, identify who defends the map when the commission goes into dormancy and comes back, process how the commission ends, designate a parliamentarian, process how to account for delays in the redistricting process, i.e. the census, and then address prison gerrymandering were the 6 items that came from the commission. It was decided to give the commission an extra 30 days or wait till the next meeting so people had an opportunity to review the Constitution, see if they wanted to make any changes before voting this, and then I would send it off to voters, not politicians, to include in their report. So at this time, Commissioner Clark, just want to give the commission an opportunity to add any additional items as it relates to this, and then we can vote them, and I will send them to voters, not politicians, for their consideration and their lessons learned report.
Okay, fine. Are there any commissioners that would like to add items or have comments on the slide that Executive Director Woods just presented? Ms. Reinhardt.
Yes, just noting that Commissioner Rothorn has just joined at 9:33 a.m.
Okay, thank you.
He looks more like Sasquatch every day. Can we have the list back up, Edward?
Sure.
Yeah, I'd like to take a look at that as well.
Is everybody able to see it?
I take it that these are the things that we're suggesting to voters, not politicians, that could be somehow improved. Is that the idea behind this list?
Yes.
I'd like to make a comment, and then I'll take some from the others. I want to comment on number 1 and then the last item. Let's start with the last item. Can you put that back up? I think it was address
prison gerrymandering. This
gerrymandering.
idea came from Commissioner Eade at the last meeting. There was a lot of questions from the public with regards to that. And
there was during our public hearings, there was a significant amount, but I believe that this is really a legislative item rather than a voters, not politicians item on how to handle that. So I'm not sure that point should go forward. Any comments on that?
Well, I
Commissioner
agree with you,
Zatala?
Doug. I don't know that it's not a legitimate point to go forward. It's an issue that was raised by certainly a number of persons at our meetings, and I agree it would require some type of either a state, probably state, and maybe even federal legislation to include prisoners. The other obvious problem is where do you put them in a district? Now the claim seems to have been, or the point or the rationale was, well, put them back where their home is. I don't that may be more problematic than not. I don't know, but it certainly is going to, in my opinion, require some type of legislation.
Yes, not, in my opinion, not necessarily a revision to the legislation, the constitutional amendment that created our body, but legislation. Commissioner Zatella.
Yeah, I was just going to echo exactly what Steve just said, that I think that the issue of prison gerrymandering is much more complex than just a single constitutional amendment that could potentially be set forth in another state, because it's also going to require coordination with federal laws as well as state laws. And I think it's almost too complicated of an issue to address within the context of trying to create other commissions in other states as well. I think you're creating a wholly different issue for analysis and consideration, rather than just the concept of creating independent commissions to draw maps instead of having politicians do it. So I agree with you, Doug.
Okay. Commissioner Rothar.
I'm going to echo what the first two said, and I do think it might be worth leaving on this. Not that we would suggest that they would address it constitutionally, they being voters, not politicians, but because we are not the body to address it.
That's correct.
And because we heard so much feedback, it does feel like it's worth trying to say, hey, voters, not politicians was the group that sort of helped bring forth a movement that led to what we are. And so I think because we can't address it, it is appropriate somehow to say, hey, make sure that this gets to the right body, and they could be the shepherds, so to speak, of that feedback that we received. And we're sort of, I guess what I want to suggest is that we're somehow passing on and saying, hey, it's not in our bailiwick. I think what Steve and Rebecca both said, I totally agree, and you, Doug. And it just feels like trying to address that public comment in a way that feels appropriate is what I don't think it's wrong to leave it in there, but I do agree that if it's only talking about constitutional changes, then I don't think it's appropriate to leave that prison gerrymandering in there.
Correct. And then maybe what we should do is enhance the narrative on that slide to reflect that we don't think it's within our scope, but it needs to be addressed from a statewide perspective.
We can do that.
Yeah. Okay. Any other comments on that subject from the commissioners? Okay, I had a comment on the first one too. I can't recall. Could you bring this slide up again, Mr. Woods? Process for voting individual maps. My comment on that was, I think that process should be left up to the commission that's in that's currently the commission of the state. And then we shouldn't define how they should do their business, that we should allow them to develop the voting process by themselves. Now we can give them suggestions, but but anyways, that's my opinion. Commissioner Zatella.
Yeah, this was actually my comment. It isn't so much about telling them how to vote. It was clarifying that point that we actually had some disagreement with our counsel on, with respect to, if you recall, she was saying that the constitutional language allowed any individual to present an individual map after the 45-day public comment period and have it be voted on. And I think there needs to be clarification in the law that any map that the commission should be voting on should go through that 45-day public comment period, because there was considerable debate that we had as a commission about that language. And I think that, they need to clarify, that all maps should go through a public comment period, rather than the position our general counsel at the time was taking, which is that someone can come in at the last minute and submit an individual map that's never gone through public comment, and have that map potentially be voted on, and have that map potentially, if we couldn't agree on a map, go into that lottery that we had discussed. And there was pretty strong objections to that interpretation, which is why we actually voted to not follow it.
Okay. Thank you. Commissioner Lett?
A couple of comments. I certainly don't disagree with Rebecca that our process, and I think we can develop the process, or the next commission, let's put it that way, can develop the process on that item of how individual maps or individual commissioners are going to propose something. That we certainly have to have the public comment portion of it taken care of. Voting on the maps is set forth in the Constitution, so if we're talking just technically on how we vote, we know how that is. So I guess we're talking mostly about what Rebecca's talking about, which is coming up with a better process so that everybody knows what the rules of the game are before we get to the point of somebody wanting to put in a late map and avoid what the Constitution requires.
Okay, any other comments? Commissioner Light, you still have your hand up? Okay. Again, I would suggest, and I'd like your advice on this, or comments, that maybe we enhance the description of what that says on, that goes forward to the voters, not politicians. So that so they know exactly what we're talking about at this point. Any objection to that? Okay.
Cynthia's got her hand up.
Cynthia? I'm sorry, Commissioner Orton?
I just wanted to say, I agree. I was going to say the same thing. Just clarify those points so that they know exactly what we're talking about.
Okay. So I would like to propose that, or put a motion forward that we bring this back to the next meeting with those few changes made, so that we understand exactly the verbiage that's going to be moved forward at this point. Is there a second to that?
Second.
Second, okay. Second is by Commissioner Weiss. All right. All in favor, raise your hand and say aye.
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 All opposed, raise your hand and say nay. Okay, great. And any other comments on this subject?
Yeah, Commissioner Clark,
Yes.
I'm not sure what their deadline is, but we did do it at the last meeting, and now we're talking about it this meeting. And then we're looking at another possible 30 days.
Yes.
So I just don't know whether or not, we might be included, but just wanted to bring that to the commission's attention.
Commissioner Orton?
Edward, would you have time to make those edits and we could revisit this at the end of our meeting?
Sure, you can do that. All right.
All right, we'll address it that way if there's a time factor involved. So we'll come back to this. Let me look at the agenda. We'll come back to this after the approval of the minutes, and then revisit the subject. All right, next on our agenda, and I inadvertently skipped an item, will be the fiscal year 23 revised budget. Without objection, I will ask MICRC Executive Director to present this item. Hearing no objection, please proceed, Mr. Woods.
Thank you. In the meeting materials, we provided a breakdown, which is also available on the website. And what we have is office supplies has stayed the same. We did change meetings. We reduced that to 5,000. This is what covers our sign language interpreter that's present with us today. Advertising is really called printing. It's called printing. At our last meeting, I shared that we had a printing for our commission report and our maps. We also have printing as it relates to our lessons learned report. The code for that is 6131, and it's designated as advertising in the Sigma account, but it includes printing. And the reason why that's important, so when you do a compare and contrast with budgets, we put it in the same budget code. Travel stays the same, technology, internet purchases, and telephone is 33,000 stays the same. Total salaries, which also includes the 26% markup, is there. That's for the commission as well as staff. And then our consultants, once again, that breakdown is available on our website, but just wanted to put it all on one side. The total expenses have not changed, but we did have to do a revised budget once again for our printing expenses, which is labeled in Sigma 6131 advertising. Having said that, just need a motion to approve the fiscal year 23 revised budget as presented.
So moved.
Is there a second? It's second by Commissioner Weiss and approved. I'm sorry, it was moved by Commissioner Lett. Is there any discussion or debate on the motion? Okay. All opposed? I'm sorry, all in favor, raise your hand and say aye, please.
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed, raise your hand and say nay, please. The ayes prevail. The motion is adopted. The next item on our agenda is new business. And the first new business item will be the Office of Auditor General request. Without objection, I will ask our MICRC Executive Director, Edward Woods III, to present this item. Hearing no objection, please proceed, Mr. Woods.
Thank you, Commissioner Clark. I will post this on the screen. We received a request from the Office of Auditor General to access the MICRC Sigma account, and it was referenced by the law. I've had legal counsel reviewed the request and noticed it was supported by the law. The authority you provided me was with regards to the executive branch, not the legislative branch, as it relates to Sigma, the executive branch, not the legislative branch. The Office of Auditor General is under the legislative branch. As a result, I did not have the authority to approve their request as cited by law. And so what I'm asking for is to make sure we comply with the law. Once again, it's been reviewed by legal counsel, and I'm granting their request, this request for Sigma access.
Okay, is there a motion for this, Commissioner Orton?
Yeah, I move that we grant request for the legislative branch.
Okay.
If we can look at the motion as written, please.
Oh, okay. I move that we authorize the MICRC Executive Director to approve the Sigma request from the Office of the Auditor General.
Second.
Okay. There's a motion by Commissioner Orton and second by Commissioner Lett. Okay, is there any discussion or debate on the motion? Okay, hearing none. Yeah. Then all in favor, raise your hand and say aye, please.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed, raise your hand and say nay. The ayes prevail and the motion is adopted. Next on our agenda is the temporary staffing services contract. Without objection, I will ask our MICRC Executive Director, Edward Woods III, to present this item. Hearing no objection, please proceed, Mr. Woods.
Yes, back in November, the state went out for bid for temporary staffing services with regards to our staffing. According to the MICRC procurement review and procedures and guidelines, the MICRC may participate in an existing state of Michigan contract or procurement for services of goods without going through a request for proposal process. The Legislative Services Bureau and the Michigan Department of State, when I talked to those involved with procurement, recommended the same vendor. The 6 vendors that were approved by the state of Michigan are as follows: the 22nd Century Technologies, ATH Healthcare Services, Abacus Service Corporation, PIE Management, LLC, Trifacta Incorporated, and the Vibris Group. The markup for each group is 17.70% for 22nd Century, 43% for ATC Healthcare, Abacus Service Corporation, 26.80%, PIE Management, 25 to 30%, Trifecta at 26%, and Vibris at 30%. I called each of the firms to follow up, and the only 2 that I actually spoke to and had a conversation with the AT Health Services and Abacus Service Corporation. Both of them said they pay weekly. In terms of Michigan-based, ATC Health Service is a franchise that is based in Michigan, but its headquarters is in DC, whereas Abacus Service Corporation is solely based in Michigan. I found them both to be responsive as well. But as you can see, there's a difference in the markup between 43% and 26.80%. Consequently, I'm recommending to the commission that we have, and this contract is in place, I believe, for 3 to 5 years with regards to that in terms of the markup, in terms of, the cost to the commission. So what I'm seeking is approval to execute a contract with Abacus Services Corporation for temporary staffing services for the commission. And we would begin that in March. If there's any questions, I can take them at this time.
Commissioner Lett, you have a question or a comment?
Edward, what is our plan to use the staffing service for? What are we going to use them for?
They're the ones that pay our bills, and Kelly Services did not get approved by the state to provide our temporary staffing services, which does our payroll and our travel reimbursements and our expenses reimbursements, I should say.
What, when you talked with them, would the switchover be smooth, or once again, are we going without pay for a month?
No, it'll be smooth. I would time it with the, that's why I said start in March. So I could time it, and it would be a smooth process, give everyone enough time to upload their information so that we would have a smooth process.
Just out of curiosity, if you know, why wasn't Kelly approved?
I was told that they didn't meet the technical services requirement in the process, and as a result, they were not able to move forward.
Then I would move that we adopt Abacus, is that the one? Services for staffing.
I have a motion by Commissioner Lett and a second by Commissioner Weiss. Is there any discussion or debate on the motion?
Yeah.
Commissioner Curry.
Yes. Kelly Services was not approved this time. What was the difference in their getting approved the first time compared to now?
I have no idea. The state contracts are done by the Michigan Department, Technology Management and Budget, anything over, at least when I was there, over $25,000. But it's a contract that anybody can purchase within the state with regards to that. And so it enables us a process where we don't have to do a formal RFP, Commissioner Curry. so that we can get the best price. So they negotiate the best price on behalf of the state. But because they didn't meet the technical services requirement, which is all I know, they were not able to proceed. And when they did the evaluations, these were the 6 contractors that they made available for state departments, agencies to buy off of. As a result of that, I talked to both Legislative Services Bureau and Michigan Department of State to see their experiences. And this is the one that they've been using. As I shared earlier, we had 6, only 2 responded. And, you know, there's a difference in the amount of money that we would pay additional if we went with the other one. And that's why I'm recommending the abacus for this commission's consideration.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other comments or questions? I have a couple questions for you.
Commissioner Wagner, hand is up, Commissioner
Oh,
Clark.
I'm sorry, I didn't see that. Go ahead, Commissioner Wagner.
Thank you. Can we see the markup screen again, please, Edward?
Sure.
Thank you. All right, thank you. And that one is strictly Michigan-based abacus, correct?
Correct.
All right, thank you.
Great. My questions are, you indicated we get the same services that we do today. Paychecks, expense accounts, W-2 information at the end of the year. Do you know if the W-2 is electronic? And do you know if they deposit your check directly into the bank account?
It would be direct deposit and you would have electronic or mail is my understanding, but let me verify that. But it would be a seamless switch.
Okay. All right, those were my questions. All right, we have a motion on the table. Any other comments on that? All right, hearing none. All in favor of Executive Director Woods moving forward to make the switch in vendors. And all in favor, and please raise your hand and say aye.
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 All opposed, raise your hand and say nay. The ayes prevail and the motion is adopted. Mr. Woods, if you would proceed forward and then report back to us next meeting of what takes place. Next on the agenda is the approval of the minutes from the January 19th meeting. These draft minutes have been provided to the commission before the meeting and are posted on the website. Are there any edits to these meetings, to this meeting? Okay, may I have a motion to approve the meeting minutes?
So moved.
I have a motion by Commissioner Orton and a second by Commissioner Curry. Thank you so much. All in favor, please raise your hand and say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed, raise your hand and say nay. Okay, the ayes prevail and the minutes are approved. All right, we need to backtrack on one item. Have you had enough time to make the adjustments that we discussed, Mr. Woods?
I am trying, so I will let you see if I captured it correctly.
Would you like some more time?
Well, if I got it right, then I can fix it and we can skip my report, go to the legal and go to the MDOS updates and come back to me. I can put that in my executive director report. But if I'm hearing Commissioner Zatello correctly, it was to make sure the public had input when it comes to individual maps. Is that correct?
No. It was about the wording around whether a commissioner can bring in an independent map or, a map from somebody else, like at the last minute, and not have that map have been published and gone through the 45-day public comment period. So it's just a very narrow issue. just clarification in the language regarding which maps are required to go through a publication and 45-day public comment period before the commission can vote on it.
So clarification around the public input process. Can I
The-
say for all maps?
The
or no?
publication process and the 45-day public comment process, which maps have to go through that. And the position the commission took was that all maps have to go through that, whether it's individual, collaborative, something submitted by Promote the Vote or, AFL-CIO, whatever. They all had to go through publication and a 45-day public comment period before the commission could vote on it. But that needs to be clarified because there was obviously enough ambiguity in the language that there was a question.
And we're saying that for all maps, correct?
For all maps. Or just a clarification in the language.
Commissioner Lett, did you have a comment?
I did, but Rebecca ended up saying what I was gonna say in another way.
Okay, Commissioner Clark, let me see if I have it. Let me just go ahead and share my screen.
Okay. And for everybody's knowledge, this is the MICRC legislative improvements item.
All right, is everybody able to see it?
Yep, that works.
And then how about the last one? I think Commissioner Clark, that was your concern. And
Correct. Correct.
Is that good?
Yeah,
I think
personally
that's
like
better.
this much. Yeah, I like this much better. Yeah.
All right.
All right. So do we have a motion on approving this from any of the commissioners?
I move we
Sure.
approve the language as presented.
On the screen?
Correct. That's the motion. Okay. The motion is put forward by Commissioner Rothorn and was it approved by Commissioner Lett? Okay. Is there any further discussion or debate on this subject? None? Okay, hearing none. All in favor, raise your hand and say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed, raise your hand and say nay. The ayes prevail and the motion is adopted.
Thank you, Edward, for working on the fly.
Yeah, good work, Edward. All right. All right, there's an executive director report today. Without objection, I will ask Executive Director Woods to provide his report. Please proceed, Mr. Woods.
All right, everybody can see my screen?
Yes.
Great. For the month of January, just like to show you where the website is going. We did have more views in January, 14,124 page views. 67% was focusing on final and district maps. 13% were district maps by county. So as you can see, 80% of the maps are really, 80% of the views are really dealing with maps. I want you to know the final lessons learned report is out. We'll be uploading that to the website. So we both have the video that's out and the report is out. We're processing outstanding bills. Mostly all of that is done. Where there is a concern, the vendors are addressing that, but we should have all of our bills hopefully resolved from the first quarter by tomorrow is the goal. And then we should have our bills are coming in for January. Obviously, a lot of the time was spent, as I covered, with the our budget impasse, and then set up attorney meetings for the AG case. We still have 2 more meetings that we weren't able to do. that were beyond our control. And so we're going to set those up for Zoom meetings, but want to thank the commission for all of their efforts and being present. What was supposed to be a 2-week process, we actually got done in 1 week and saved a considerable amount of funds. So thank you for adjusting your schedules with regards to that. But that is my main report. If there's any questions, I can take them at this time in terms of sharing what I've been doing over the last month since our last meeting.
Do any of the commissioners have questions or comments? Okay. Hearing none.
I think
Yeah.
Commissioner
Curry
Curry
just got her hand up.
Commissioner Clark.
I'm sorry.
Yes.
Commissioner Curry.
Yes, just curious, do you know when they're going to court? The AG case?
No, but Commissioner Lett will probably talk about that in his legal report.
Oh, okay.
Any other comments? Okay.
Just appreciation.
Thank you, Commissioner Warthog. Okay, hearing none. There is a legal liaison report today. Without objection, I'll ask our legal liaison Commissioner Steve Lett provide his report. Please proceed, Commissioner Lett.
We've talked about the case against the legislature, getting the funding that's resolved now, and the final touches will be put on that. Hopefully everybody enjoyed their interview with what I call the Kate and Nate show in their questioning, so you could realize how much you don't remember about what went on. The AG case, I just got an email today that the Baker is providing their expert witness list and a summary of what the experts will be talking about to the other side. It said that it wasn't due as of yet, but they had it ready and they were going to submit it. As far as timing on the AG case, the question of when is it going to go to, if the question was when is it going to go to trial, I don't know. That has not been set. There would be the completion of discovery, which in essence has barely started. They've had some interrogatories that have been answered, and the interviews that Kate did with us certainly are part of their preparation. The scheduling conference order had been entered, which sets out who has to do what at a particular point in time. Once that's set, those dates have been accomplished and the information received, which would be after any depositions that are taken, then there would most likely be motions for summary disposition, and those would then be scheduled based upon the court's calendar, how busy they are or aren't. And then there would be another scheduling conference, I'm assuming, or some type of conference at the federal court to set trial dates or other actions that might be required. Rebecca, you have anything to add to that?
Nope.
Pretty standard procedure. There's really no way for us to know right now what you're looking at as a trial date. My initial estimate, it would be quick if it was by the end of the year. That would be quick. I don't expect it until, absent a summary judgment, I don't expect a trial until next year. So that's the AG case. I don't think there's anything else from the legal point of view right now. Unless somebody has some question, I'd be happy to try to answer them if you got a question or a point of view or whatever. Oh, good.
Any further questions from the commissioners?
Good. I don't have to look stupid.
No, just appreciate you, Steve.
Okay. Thank you very much, Commissioner Lett. Without objection, I will ask either Mike Brady or Sarah Reinhardt from the Michigan Department of State if they have an update. Hearing no objection, please proceed, Mr. Brady or Ms. Reinhardt.
No updates from the Department of State today. Thank you.
Are there any questions for Ms. Reinhardt? Okay, I have one question, Ms. Reinhardt. Given that we've gone to a new fiscal year and a new calendar year, has the state updated its expense guidelines on reimbursement for travel expenses? And if so, could we get a copy?
Absolutely, an excellent question, Vice Chair Clark. It's not something that I'm currently aware of, but I can definitely check on that and report out at the next meeting or send an email to all the commissioners in the interim if there are updates with the attached document.
Okay, thank you very much. Are there any other questions for Ms. Reinhardt? Okay. Correspondence, if any was available, was received in advance of our meeting today, along with any written public comments to the commissioners. Are there any announcements? Okay, here. I see no announcements from any of the commissioners. As the items on the agenda are completed and the commission has no further business, a motion to adjourn is in order. May I have a motion to adjourn?
I apologize, Doug. I did want to say an announcement. I am in East Lansing. I'm in Lansing. It's been hard. I'm sorry I was late today. I just wanted to say we're all doing as best we can. And I work with housing cooperatives where some students, but not all students live. I just wanted to say thank you for your prayers and reaching out. And we, like I said, we're not okay, and that's okay. So just thank you. And then I have motion to adjourn.
I appreciate that, Commissioner Rothhard. I think I have a motion from Commissioner Kellum already. And a second from you, Commissioner Rothhard? Okay. All in favor, raise your hands and say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed, raise your hand and say nay. The ayes prevail and the meeting is adjourned at 10:12. I'm sorry, let me stop for a minute. Commissioner Zatella has a
I was just waving bye.
well, she's waving by.
MC was waving, so I was waving back.
Adjourned at 10:12 a.m.
Take care,
Thank you very
everyone.
much.
Hi, guys.